Permissible uses of the county hospital levy is expanded to include operation and capital expenses, as well as the payment of principal and interest bonds issued for hospital purposes. Levy proceeds may be used to partially or fully compensate taxing districts for reductions in other taxing district levies resulting from the imposition of the hospital levy. A future initial increase in a county's general expense levy for hospital purposes is exempt from the 1% revenue limit. The changes in this bill are applicable for taxes levied for collection in 2025 and thereafter. So they want to basically get rid of the limit that we voted on for property tax. And this bill is specifically for this county-owned hospital bill that they're also looking at, that I'm not going to talk about in this episode, but for any county-owned hospital, there's currently only one in the state, and that's Harborview. So, they're wanting to increase property tax to do a $2 billion expansion to Harborview because it's the only level 1 trauma center, and they're spending about $300 million a year on people who can't pay for their medical and other like illegals and homeless who go to the hospital for treatment that also don't pay. $300 million. They run that hospital the same way they run their city, and it just doesn't work. That's why they're looking at all these humongous deficits in Seattle budget right now. At the end of the day, a hospital is a business, and you can't run a business like that. And private hospitals don't run that way, so why should their hospital be any different? And the rest of us in the state should not pay the price for that, because you open the door to raising the limit on property tax, then you're opening the door to them raising it all the time for anything they want. That would be a cash cow for the state. The people already said no to property tax increases. They need to stop coming at us trying to get us to repeal that. Now they're trying to appeal to people because it's a hospital. Well, that's where it'll start. Guaranteed, it won't end there. SB 5444, firearms-sensitive locations. The following locations would be added to the list of designated places at which it is a gross misdemeanor for any person to enter while knowingly possessing a firearm or a weapon. Public libraries, zoos or aquariums, the premises of a city's, towns, countries, or other municipalities, neighborhood, community, or regional park facilities at which children and youth are likely to be present, and at which appropriate signage has been posted notifying the public that weapons are not permitted. Transit stations or transit facilities, including all passenger facilities, structures, stops, shelters, bus zones, and other properties owned, leased, held by, or used by transit authority for the purpose of providing public transportation services. State or local public buildings, where state or public building means a building or a part of a building owned, leased, held, or used by the government entity of a city, town, county, or other municipality, or by the state of Washington, if state or local public employees are regularly present for the purpose of performing their official duties, and not regularly used and not intended to be used by state or local employees as a place of residence. These prohibitions do not apply to individuals who maintain a valid concealed carry license or correctional personnel. As used in the bill, state or local public buildings do not include Washington State ferries, terminal buildings, and holding lanes of Department of Transportation safety rest areas. The prohibitions related to zoos and aquariums do not apply to employees of zoos, aquariums, or animal sanctuaries while engaged in their employment if the weapon is owned by the facility and maintained for the purpose of protecting its employees, animals, or the visiting public. Cities, towns, counties, or other municipalities must designate the park facilities within its boundaries where children are likely to be present and post appropriate signage at reasonable intervals on the perimeter of the facility's premises to notify the public that weapons are prohibited. Facilities at which children are likely to be present include, but are not limited to, facilities that have playgrounds, sports fields, swimming or wading pools, teen or community centers, and skate parks. These are just more gun laws to make sure you can't protect yourself when you're out and about. You're going to ride public transit in Seattle without having a weapon to protect yourself? Have you been on public transit in Seattle before? It's dangerous. A lot of these parks in these big cities are dangerous. We have the right to protect ourselves. And yes, if you have a concealed carry, you're exempt from this, surprisingly, shockingly, actually, which, that is good. But this is ridiculous. All these buildings, all these locations, all these pieces of property, basically you won't be able to go anywhere outside with a gun if you're a law-abiding citizen. This law is making criminals out of law-abiding citizens because criminals aren't going to follow these rules. We already know this. Just look at Chicago. Just look at any of these other cities that are huge gun-free zones. There's more gun violence than anywhere else in the U.S. because criminals know you're vulnerable. You can't protect yourself legally. This stuff needs to stop. And these next two, HB 2384 and 2485, is in regards to traffic safety cameras. 2384 authorizes automatic traffic safety cameras to be used to detect speed violations on state routes other than limited access highways within city limits. It'll make the pilot program permitting traffic cameras to be used for stopping an intersection or crosswalk violations, stopping when traffic obstructed violations, public transportation only lane violations, and stopping or traveling in a restricted lane violations permanent, and expands it to all areas of cities with populations of 90,000 or more residents. And HB 2485 authorizes the Washington State Department of Transportation to develop a traffic camera pilot program to test the use of 2 to 3 traffic cameras on state highways to evaluate the technology used, determine the impact on speeding behavior in areas of testing, and compile public responses to the use of traffic cameras on highways. It prohibits the issuance of traffic infractions captured by pilot program traffic cameras. So, I don't know, I'm on the fence about this. I know that if they authorize all this, they'll be used everywhere, but quite frankly, after seeing the way people drive, especially on the freeway, I'm sort of all for this, because you can only have a couple state troopers out there managing speeders, and it's not working. If you've been on the freeway lately, it's not working. The aggressive speeding, driving that's going on, and the additional increased accidents that are occurring, something's got to be done. And I think these cameras are the answer. I mean, of course, people will figure out where these cameras are, and all the spots between will be the speeding zones, but I think it'll help. And, if you drive like that, well, I guess you shouldn't. I commute a lot, and I personally am sick and tired of dealing with the aggressive idiot drivers that are on the roads, and something needs to be done about it. And if you're one of those people, maybe you should leave home earlier so you don't have to drive so fast and drive like a moron between all the traffic that's on the freeway these days. Anywho, that's your update for the day. Olympia politicians are hard at work trying to improve your life here in the good old state of Washington. Thanks for listening to Left Coast News. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net. Please subscribe, like, and share to your social media. We appreciate your support.